Greg, welcome. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for bringing this important topic to our Ed Leaders Network live webinar series. I've got a chance to look over the slides myself, and this is going to be a highly engaging and interesting topic. And I'm going to turn them over to you now, Greg, and I'll go on mute.
Arlen, thanks so much. We started talking about this months and months ago, maybe even years ago, and now it's to fruition. So thanks for joining us and giving us an hour of your super busy schedules. I think we can jump into the first slide.
Yep, they're all yours.
Good. Lexi, you can change the slide. So we're going to be going over like who we are, the current reality of school food, building palettes, some barriers that can come up, cost neutrality, effective leadership, where to start questions. You can go to the next slide. And really, what we do is, what this is about is it possible to serve even more fabulous food in our school cafeterias in a cost neutral way? And we've been doing this for a long time, and we say it is possible. This is my youngest daughter, Breatha, and the reason I got into school food, I was a chef starting 45 years ago now. That's forever. And I transitioned to school food because this young lady was very sick as a kid, and the doctors couldn't help her. And we decided to try all organic food. And I can't say that it was because of all organic food, and I'm not telling you to serve all organic food, but she had no more hospital visits. And then I just did some soul searching and thought that maybe all kids, not just my two kids, deserve fabulous food. So over 20 years ago, I went to Mayor Daley, and who I used to cook a lot for when I was a fancy chef. And I asked him to open up the Chicago Public Schools to us, and he did. And that's when the journey began to try to figure out how do schools on a super skinny budget, maybe some limited equipment, maybe not a ton of, some kitchens aren't filled with a lot of cooking skills. Some are, some aren't. So how do you take these kitchens to fresher food that kids will eat and local food in a cost neutral way? So that's what we're going to talk about. And I can talk for days and days about this, and I'll talk for about a half hour, and then we'll answer any questions. Go ahead, next slide. And I guess while I do this, if people can put into the chat what you're hoping to get out of this, or what you're hoping to learn or see, that would really help me guide the conversation, since I can't see you or hear you, which makes sense. Maybe just typing up, if you don't mind, either questions or things you're hoping to take away. So we have a non-for-profit side too. Beyond Green is the for-profit side, and this is, I'm not trying to confuse you, this is the non-for-profit side that we just birthed. And we're guiding institutions towards sustainable food service operations that serve fresh, local, and scratch-cooked food, support the health and well-being of individuals, and support the local farmers. So we think it's possible to make even more fabulous food for kids, food that kids want to eat, and keep our money in town, keep our money in the state by buying local food. The problem with local food in general is it's all fresh, almost all fresh. So the kitchen has to know how to, break down, raw chicken and work with raw ground beef and work with, whole vegetables. And so that takes a little bit of training. You can go to the next slide. And I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so just another gentle reminder, if there's something you want me to touch on or hoping to learn, something you doubt, anything is fine. So the current reality, I can just walk you through this menu. This is a menu from one of our customers. Right now, we're in like, I think 17 kitchens in the state of Illinois. We've worked all over North America for 20 years. So we've been in lots of kitchens, hospitals, jails, old people homes, tons of schools, mostly public, some private. So we're just walking you through the first week on this menu. Most of you already know this, but this vegetable soup is probably not homemade. The celery is probably coming in already cut. The roll comes in already made from a vendor, and the fruit is either whole fruit or canned fruit in general. The next day, the meatballs come out of the freezer in general. The salad out of a bag, the dressing out of a plastic container, the breadstick out of the freezer. The next day, the chicken nuggets are coming out of the freezer in general, the french fries out of the freezer. The cheeseburgers are coming in frozen, already cooked in general, the baked beans from a can. Pizza's coming in probably frozen. The carrots from a can are frozen. The next day, the Monday, the 9th, the pancakes are, from the freezer, and the sausage from the freezer already cooked. The hash browns already cooked from the freezer. Eggs probably out of the freezer. Maybe they're liquid eggs from a bag. I'll stop. So the current reality is mostly processed food. So I'm seeing I'm reading the chat too. Small portions, okay. Real food. Yeah, I'm going to get to almost all of these. And if I don't, then ask me again in the question time. Next slide, please. So one of the jobs, I think, like 30 years ago, if I was talking to the principals or people, the leadership of a school 40 years ago, and I said, you are going to be responsible to make sure that there's no bullying in your schools. You would say, well, we don't want bullying in our schools, but if bullying happens, we'll call the parents and tell them to deal with it. And today, the schools ensure that there's no bullying in schools with or without the parents' help. We want the parents' help, but if the parents don't help, you're still going to make sure that there's not bullying in the schools. I say in the next 20 years, schools will start to be responsible for building pallets in kids' mouths so when they leave school, they crave nutrient dense food. It's simply, in general, not happening at home. It's nobody's fault. It's mostly processed food in the stores. It's mostly fast food in the restaurants. Parents are working, many of them, 2 jobs. So cooking fabulous food and going to the farmer's market it's just harder and harder to do. And I know the principals and superintendents and boards of schools have a ton to do. And the last thing you want to be responsible for is building pallets in kids' mouths. So when they graduate 8th grade or they graduate high school, they crave nutrient dense food. But I say it's coming. So that's just, yeah, next slide. There's one perceived barrier that's not on here, and there's lots of federal rules that we didn't put on this slide, and that's an oversight on our part. So people say we cannot change the school food because we'll end up serving too much salt or too much sugar, or it's just the rule, you have to red vegetables on Tuesday and a quarter cup of beans on Thursday, and the rules are so tough to hit that hitting them with processed food is hard enough. So that's a barrier that people use as an excuse to not do fresh food. And then food and labor cost. Everyone's budget is super skinny, and almost none of you can afford to spend more money on food or labor. Leadership. It's easier to run a processed food kitchen than a scratch kitchen, than a kitchen that buys all food in their whole form and chops it up and cooks it from the raw state. And so what happens is often in the schools that we're in the jails, all of them, leadership has a tough time to kind of rally the troops to scratch cook fresh food. And they don't know how to do it because in the processed food kitchen, everyone kind of knows what to do. So there doesn't have to be a big plan. There's not a production schedule or checklists. Everybody knows what to do. And a lot of us humans, it's hard to change us. I'm almost 65. And if my, girlfriend were sitting here, she could tell you he has a hard time changing. And so our kitchens in general have been serving processed food for over 20 years now, all over the country, public schools, private schools, hospitals, jails, older people homes, long-term living. 20 years, solid, some 25. And so to then take those cooks or who's ever been doing it for 10 or 15 years and move them to cooking from the raw state, it's really hard. Next slide. That's so nice. So one of the things that gets in the way of a fresh food kitchen is variety. So when you ask kids like what do they want, you do the survey, and then they want this, they want that, and then they're not eating their food maybe, or not eating enough of their food, or a lot of kids are bringing food for lunch even if they can eat for free. And the answer is always variety, more variety. So this is actually a menu from one of the places we work. And so we're offering kids like all this food because hopefully they'll eat something. We want them to eat something. But variety ends up getting in the way because when you have all this variety, you don't have time to cook. You don't have time to make a fresh salad. You don't have time to make salad dressing. You don't have time to make sloppy joes from the raw state. And so variety is definitely the enemy of heading towards scratch cooking, fresh food the kids are going to eat. Next slide. And we assert that the money to buy better food, way better food, and the time to cook it is in your current systems. So whatever school you're in and whatever the budget is that you have, the money to buy better food, fresher food, local food, and the time to cook it is in the system. And we have proven this for 20 years. Right now we're proving it in 17 kitchens at the same time. And we've done, 100 kitchens. And the reason that we can say this is because that there is so much money spent on individually packaged items like individual ketchups and individual sour cream. And there's so much over portioning happening in a lot of places. There's so much overproduction happening, and that overproduction is not tracked. And there's so much plate waste happening. There's different ways you can serve food. There's offer versus serve and serve. I can explain that, if somebody has a question about that, but many places do serve. And the USDA gives you 2 ways to serve food. And if you do serve, that means everybody gets every component, 5 components, right? The fruit, the vegetable, the protein, the grain, and the milk. And often people aren't going to eat all that food, but they're given that food. And the excuse to give them all that food is we have to keep the lines moving. And that's a good reason. Of course, we have to keep the lines moving so kids have time to eat their food. But if you did offer versus serve, you only have to give kids 3 of those 5 components. And the other 2 that you don't give them can be a choice. So I love telling schools to buy bulk milk machines. And if kids want a glass of milk, they can go get it. Or somebody can help them serve it. There's so much milk wasted. I captured all the milk waste at a school I was doing in Hawaii. And in one grammar school and high school that shared a kitchen, they were wasting $25,000 worth of milk a year. Because chocolate milk and milk in general, kids are thirsty. They think it's a good idea. They go get a milk, they open it, they take a sip. They really want water. So I'm a big proponent of putting a water station, not only in the cafeteria, but one right at the line. so kids can take a little cup of water. And there's so much overproduction happening, especially if you have variety. But even if you don't have variety, if you have variety, let's pretend you have 3 entrees at your school, or even 2, and you don't know what kids are going to eat. And you can't run out of food. You're going to have extras. And so we have people measure on a scale overproduction. And so the amount of waste that's happening in both serve and overproduction, the money that's, if you keep that money from going to the garbage can, you have money to buy way more fabulous food. And the other thing, which I'll get to maybe in the next slide, but there's another reason, another way to save money, and that is that, yeah, this is the slide, is that this is a current project. The school might be in Southern Illinois or Central Illinois. Heat and serve scrambled eggs. So this is a scrambled egg puck that's frozen. Is $1.06. And the scratch cooked, that's using local eggs, same dish, you have to cook it, is 65 cents. The heat and serve one comes out of the freezer, goes on to sheet pans and gets heated up. Pancakes, heat and serve, 73 cents. Homemade with Janie's Mill flour, which is an awesome mill using ancient grains in Illinois. So it's a stone ground flour, homemade pancakes, 25 cents. And if your school is too big, you can do pancake, like sheet pan pancakes. French toast, the French toast sticks that are very popular, full of chemicals, $1.71. Homemade French toast, 29 cents. That, again, using local eggs, local milk. Salisbury steak, store-bought, $1.02. Homemade with local ground beef, 39 cents. The chicken patty, that's raw, local chicken that has to be cut and, breaded, and there's some work there, right? Okay, so if we were to compare your entire menu, who's ever on this call, and we took your month's worth of breakfast and your month's worth of lunches and did a processed food to raw food, 85% of the recipes would be cheaper with the raw food, and overall the raw food would be much cheaper than the processed food. So then the question is, well, where's the time to make it? The next slide. And where the time, to make it is it starts with the leader and strong communication. Keep in mind what I said initially, that running a processed food kitchen, it's fairly straightforward, as long as everybody comes to work, or most of the people come to work, because you're opening up cans and boxes, and the salad dressing comes from a gallon container. And so as you head towards more fresh, the puzzle becomes more complex. So the hardest part of this is the thinking that goes into it, the planning that goes into it. And so the leader has to be strong and really want this. And then there's training that goes into all these cooks. They have to be taught how to cook, but we're going to talk about in the end ways to get started without much training. The next slide. So one of the things that happens is when you start to become more efficient, you have to become more efficient. If you don't become more efficient in the kitchen, then you'll never hit the budget. And so what you're asking the leader to do is, the leader hopefully wants to do this, the head of the cafeteria, the principal. And then you have to hold the cooks accountable for the execution of the recipes, the execution of not producing too much food, accountability around portion size. And this bringing of accountability, the current accountability that the team has is like coming to work on time and having breakfast and lunch items ready on time in the warmer. And that takes accountability. You can't be late. You're going to throw the whole school off if lunch is late. But there's additional accountabilities with the fresh food. There's a different way of checking in the food, There's cooking processes that have to be followed, or the food will be bad. There's making just the right amount of food, and accountability to each other for staying in communication. And this accountability piece can be scary for some cooks in these kitchens, and even some heads of cafeterias, people can be very resistant to this. And so I say this isn't about recipes, and I hope I'm not confusing anyone. And this isn't about some new equipment, which you might need some new equipment and you might need some recipes, but it's really about principal holding the head of cafeteria accountable, the head of cafeteria holding their cooks accountable in this great change. Next slide. So it's about people. And this is the superintendent. This is a school district in Illinois called Lincoln School District, and they went live about 6-7 years ago. On the left is the superintendent. On the right is Connie, the boss of the 5 kitchens. She's now making food for 9 kitchens. Other schools in the neighborhood call her to make their food. And on the 2-week training that we did 6 years ago with Lincoln in the summer, Mr. Frobe came every day. He didn't stay all day. He showed up every morning for 2 weeks saying, this is of interest to me. I'm a phone call away for anyone. I've got your back. Let's do this together. And that's effective leadership. These programs don't work if superintendent, principal tell the cafeteria staff, this is your job, I'm busy. But it's weird because principals aren't used to interjecting themselves in the cafeteria. You all have enough to do. But you have to support the Connies of the world. Next slide. So here's where I would begin. And that would be going through the menu like we did in one of the first few slides and figuring out what's fresh and what's processed. And so in this, there's chocolate milk, there's a juice box. I recommend never serving juice boxes. You'll save so much money. I always recommend cutting up the fruit and then they'll maybe eat it. That's a frozen egg patty, and that's a frozen biscuit and a frozen sausage patty. So nobody's in trouble here, but it's just going through your breakfast and lunch menu, what's processed and what's not. So you have a baseline. It's like when your 3rd graders get to math class, they take a test, is my guess. And it's like when you go to the doctor, you give blood work. Like, where are we at? Where are we starting? Next slide. And then you set goals. These are high goals. I would not have a goal of 40%. This is a goal where we've kind of moved into the school district and make sure that this is going to happen. This is a year 1 goal. So 40% scratch cooking means 2 breakfast by May. By the end of the year, there's 2 breakfasts and 2 lunches that are homemade. And plate waste decreases. We like to measure the plate waste in the dining room every day by the custodians because we want to know, are they really eating the food or not? Increased participation. Overproduction historically in your schools are anywhere from like 7% to 25%. And so we want to get those down to under 5. And then local food. And if local food goal is too scary, you can have like a fresh food goal. And this would just be the business manager going through the receipts or the head of the cafeteria telling the business manager what's local. This can all be self-reported. Next slide. But back to that slide, you don't have to move it back, but it's like in math class, so the 3rd graders come in, they take a test, the teacher knows where they're at in math, and then the teacher has end of year goals. In all the rest of the school, all the classes, there's beginning goals in world history and end goals everywhere. And so we're just asking you to like bring that to the cafeteria too. We're going to go over some easy menu. These are some low-hanging fruit things. Sloppy Joe's, super simple. Sheet pan pancakes, simple. You need a mixer for that. Homemade marinara with whole canned whole tomatoes, lasagna, chili. These are just what we always suggest starting with. And I don't know if people can reach me, Arlen, after this, but we can, maybe help get people, some recipes or something if they think that would help. Or they can just Google these items. You're going to give them this. There's pancake recipes and marinara recipes, and these are the easiest things to make, in our opinion. Next slide. Ah, I forgot about this. I apologize. So these are a list of where to find recipes. Yeah, don't send us a note on recipes. There's thousands of recipes in here. There just has to be a willingness for them to try them. And then my recommendation to you, to your cafeteria people, and I know there's some cafeteria people on, is that you make a small recipe and taste test it with yourselves first, and then do it again and do a small taste test with a classroom or two and make sure people want it. Don't just find a fabulous recipe, what you think is fabulous, and put it on the menu and have it not work. That's what the adults do that run the cafeterias all day long. And it's fine to do that, but I say make a small batch, go to the 5th grade history class. I love doing taste tests in classrooms. They're more powerful. Kids are more settled than in the cafeteria. And ask the kids, would you eat this if I serve it? And then if most of them would say, yes, we would eat it, then put it on the menu. Next slide. This is a little bit advanced, this production schedule, which of course, you're going to get a copy of this and you can type one up yourself. This is a tool that kitchen leads can use to help put the puzzle of heading towards more scratch cooking down on paper. The current way the kitchens are run in general is verbal. Everybody knows what to do. They've all served a million times a chicken patty with canned peaches and a juice box. So they don't have to plan out their day like this. Now, your teachers, on the other hand, that have lots of different classes, they're doing, my guess is, a lot of planning to get, hopefully, to be ready for their day. So this is the surefire way to help to have the kitchen lead organize the cooks by using the clock. The clock currently is only used to make sure breakfast is up on time and lunch is up on time. And the clock has to be used much more in a scratch kitchen. So this is the best tool for that. This hurts the brain, and there's a great resistance to using this sheet of paper like you can't imagine, like more than anybody on this call can imagine. So, but it's the best tool to organize the kitchen, where then this will help ensure that you need no more labor to make fresh food. Next slide. There's some equipment people need if you're really going to do this. That's an immersion blender. Some of you have tiny ones at home for your lattes, and maybe some of you make some homemade soup. This has a 16-inch to 19-inch stem, so it's a little heavier than the one at your house. But this is the first great tool, a Roboku, and you might need some more small wares. The average kitchen needs about $8,000 worth of stuff if they're going to really do this, and they don't need to buy all that at once. 8 to 10. That's a tilt skillet. If you're going to turn your program into a lot of scratch cooking, this is the best tool to buy for that. If you're making food for 200 or more people. And that's a 40-gallon tilt skillet. They make 30-gallon ones and 20-gallon ones. Next slide. This is a project that year three just began. When we got there, they were not scratch cooking anything. They were not buying any local food except milk. And so they're currently at 90. So September of this year, they're at May of last year, they're at almost 93% scratch cooking, homemade food. Their food and labor went down 10%. This is common because the processed food's a fortune, and that's how much they spent. And this is a tiny school, a couple hundred lunches a day. Uh, it's a combined three schools in one: grammar school, middle school, and high school. And next slide. Good. 34 minutes. Okay. So I hope this made some sense, Arlen. Yeah. So if there's questions, so I have a small school in the process of trying to, yeah, if you can get kids in the garden, that'll really help them eat their vegetables. And sustainable living, not sure what you mean about that. One thing you can do in your small schools, you can start composting, and you can try to start recycling, even if that means the custodian or you driving paper and cardboard and metal cans if you don't recycle to a recycling place. And then the more advanced in what I just said is weighing all the waste streams on a scale every day, and then bragging about how much waste you're diverting from the landfill and the dump. I'm big into measuring waste streams every day on a scale and then sharing that with the world. The vegetables, getting the quantity. So there's a few things. I don't know where this school is located. Arlen, David Conrad, do you know what state or town? While Illinois, cool. Yeah, so there's a few things. There's one, I don't know if your school runs all year, but the food in Illinois is alive and well in the summer. So I like to tell schools to let at least one person in the cafeteria work all summer and buy tons of local food and process it and freeze it. And I've done, depending on the size of the school district, I've had schools buy flash freezers and build a bigger freezer and have two people work all summer in breaking down and blanching and freezing fresh vegetables. Where when the school year opens, they have 4 months of fresh produce that's frozen, that it's all local, beautiful. Another way is if you're in Illinois, I don't know where in Illinois you are, there's food hubs that are birthing and food aggregators. There's one in Mount Pulaski that's starting. There's one in Southern Illinois. There's a couple in Southern Illinois. There's the Common Market is in Chicago, and they're aggregating local food from local states. Um, and another way to do it is to find a farmer that maybe they sell beef or they sell chicken, and asking them, and they know each other, and asking them if they're willing to aggregate for you. I've turned farmers into aggregators all over the country. Are you willing to buy a truck and bring the people what you grow, and stopping along the way at your friends' places and bringing a truck full of stuff? I did this in Salinas Valley. A guy bought a truck, and I know you all have full-time jobs, so I'm not trying to scare you. Edgar was his name. He bought a truck. He was an organic farmer. He stopped at his buddy's farms, and he would bring pallets of food to Salinas Valley Public Schools. I can't remember the name. They had 5 schools. They had a warehouse, and he would just bring pallets of food, pallets of food. So you might have to set it up yourself initially. I would start with the Common Market in Chicago, and then go from there. And I would also reach out to 7 generations ahead. Diane is the farm to school coordinator for the state. She can help you find the food. Yeah. See, I say run from the co-packers, run. Don't listen to me because I know it's helpful. But I say use those commodity dollars for whole foods and take and accept the whole foods, the whole chicken breast, whole chickens, and then your team roast chickens, break it down. At first, they'll be very slow with the knife. They're going to be scared to deal with raw meat, but you're losing so much money to these co-packers, and the product that you're getting back is almost inedible. I mean, the barometer I use for for school cafeteria bosses and principals and superintendents is how many teachers are coming to the cafeteria every day and eating the food. And it's, there's a handful, but like I'm tracking that at Pawnee. We know exactly how many teachers are coming to eat everywhere we work, and we watch that. That's the main barometer for me. Teachers are coming, the food's good. Yeah, so the co-packers, when you have to order your commodities in January for the next year, and there's ways to get whole foods from them, but you have to be committed to cooking. And so in year one, if you're going to put your toe in the water on cooking, still get some of that co-packed food, but also get some whole foods if you can. Um, Arlen, help me if I've missed. Oh, I can move the chat.
Yeah, I think you've gotten to most everything. Did you answer Deanna Spencer's about a small kitchen?
No. So I love small kitchens. So Deanna, do you have a stove, a 4 or a 6 burner stove, and an oven? Is that like how? Another question is like how many feet is your exhaust hood? If that's okay that I ask those questions. And the local subsidies. Okay. Yeah. So if you have a stove and are you serving 100 lunches a day, 50, 200? Stove and an oven. Yeah, you can do some damage. Are you in Illinois? If you're in Illinois, you're welcome to come and visit. Any of you are welcome to come visit my kitchen. We have a preschool feeding company also that makes thousands of meals a day in a tiny kitchen that's totally efficient. 93% scratch, zero waste for 20 years. We make our own crackers. I mean, it's a freak show. Hyper sustainable, hyper efficient, where we make like 30 meals per labor hour. Anyway, anybody can come and visit if you want. But a stove and an oven, you can do some damage. What I need to know from you, and you might not have it off the top of your head, is meals per labor hour. So how you figure that out is like how many total hours are you working? Is the whole team working in a week? 20 person hours, 100 person hours, and how many meals are you making? Breakfast counts as 2/3, right? So if you're doing breakfast and lunch, breakfast is 2/3 of a meal. Lexi, correct me if I'm wrong. And lunch is one, and then you do some math, and you're going to come up with a number like we're making 10 meals per labor hour. If you're coming in with like we're making 20 meals per labor hour, you need more help in your kitchen. So I know I'm not trying to be too complex, but the meals per labor hour is critical. And somebody at ISB can help you with this since we don't know, And so once you figure out how many meals per labor hour, then you know how many staff you need in that kitchen. But with a stove and an oven, we're doing a school in Cobden, Illinois. They have a 8-burner stove and an oven. They don't need the 8 burners. And they are making fabulous food for a couple of hundred kids a day. They're at probably 60% scratch, making beautiful food. But you need the meals per labor hour number to determine if you need more staff. There was one question I missed. Vegetables. Yeah. So this LFS funds is drying up. We were given $7.2 million. The state of Illinois, they've used a couple million of it. They might have to return a bunch of it. I hope I'm wrong. But the money to buy local food is in your current system. Who am I talking to? I'm so sorry. David Conrad. So the money is in your system to buy more expensive local produce. There's just the waste piece that has to be tackled. And so how you tackle the waste piece initially is you measure overproduction. You buy a scale and you ask them to weigh the leftovers before they eat their lunch and before they give it away to their friends every day. And you put it into a spreadsheet. And so Monday was chili day and there was 18.2 pounds of leftover chili. Right? And you can just do the entree and you can do the sides too, however you want to do it. And then you figure out from that, this is a little complex, how many servings that was. Let's pretend that was 40 servings of leftover chili. And they served 100 orders of chili. That's how many kids came to eat it. So then that's a 40% overproduction. You'll never have any money to spend on local food at that rate of overproduction. So the scary part that the cooks have related to measuring overproduction is they think they're going to get in trouble. We've normalized food waste, David, in our homes, maybe not your home, in our businesses, in the grocery store, in our cafeterias. The plate waste, it's normal. It's just normal. Every day there's a ton of food in the garbage, and every day there's a ton of overproduction. So if we start to nip at the edges of that normalcy, measure overproduction every day, and then after a month of data, you sit with the head cook and say, hey, you want to tackle this together? Hopefully they say yes. You start to bring that overproduction down. Now you have money to buy more food. And then you have more time. Because if they made 40%, let's just use 20%, every day they overproduce 20%, that time wasted in overproduction can be used to cook. There's your time. Some of your time. Then there's training. We have a complete online, we have a program. But what I was interested in doing with Arlen was realizing that not every school is going to hire us. And so my question to him and his question to his world is, are there enough people interested in doing a program through his organization? I just don't know what the answer is. Because we realize we can't be everywhere and people don't want us everywhere, but they want better food in their cafeterias. That's how this was born. So I think I've talked a lot. Oh, thanks for the contact. Yeah.
All right, Greg, thank you so much for this wonderful, enlightening presentation. So much good content here for us to go back and think about. Lexi, thanks for posting Greg's contact information into the chat. Any follow-up that you want to do directly with Greg, please do so. Appreciate everyone logging in early and getting to sit with us for a little while this afternoon and talk about getting scratch food back in the kitchen. Greg,
Thanks, Arlen.
any final thoughts for us before we log out?
The only after doing this 20 years, Arlen, there I have more hope than ever that like not only is this possible to do, but it's starting to turn into it's not that hard. It's like this is like the next thing. I thought after 20 years of beating my head against the wall, I'd be like, God, I can't do this anymore. But this is totally possible. And the people in general on your teams in your kitchens can do this. They might not know they can do it. You might not be sure if they can do it, but they can do it.
Perfect. All right, well, wonderful sentiment to go out on. Thanks everybody for your attendance. As I said, I recorded this presentation. I'll be sending a link to the recording and a link to the course evaluation or the webinar evaluation so you can get your ISB evidence of completion for our Illinois participants. And we'll give you one professional development clock hour for your attendance today. I'm going to stop the recording.